Running your own real estate investment business can be stressful, time-consuming, and difficult to manage. Where do you start? Why go out and try and reinvent the wheel when we have the answer? With our exclusive training program, we will teach you how to free up your time to build your business, develop your goals, learning where to find the money, how to find better deals, keeping track of offers, building a team, and developing a business plan that works for you. We at Real Impact Real Estate Training and Mentoring have all the answers for you. We have several plans to help you get your business to the next level. We have developed the best one-on-one personal training system in the industry. We have a proven structure that has been developed for more than 50 years through the purchase and sales of thousands of homes and commercial properties. We will help you set up and build your real estate investment business. Whether you are new to investing or you are a seasoned professional, we have a plan for you to customize your business to a method that works, is affordable, and fits your budget. With training modules like finding money, finding deals, learning how to get correct comps, building a team, short sales, subject twos, foreclosures, making multiple offers, understanding auctions, REOs, and tax sales, working to build your construction team, and finding sellers and buyers. Find your property management team, plus over 70 additional training modules to choose from. Sit down with us for a one-on-one consulting to see what training plan is best to develop your goals and to build your business by using the 5 M's of investing: mining, money, maintenance, marketing, and management. Wouldn't your life be great if you can live it on your own terms? We help you develop and structure your business to take massive action. Join the Real Impact Real Estate Training today. Change your life today with real estate investing.
Hi there, Roger Pascal here with Real Impact, and welcome to our stream tonight, our video, whatever you want to call it. I'm blank right now. It's been a long day. We've been working hard. So thank you all for coming in. Let me explain real quick what Real Impact is for those of you that might be new to this call. So what we put together is we have a real estate training system. We have several locations throughout Texas and Oklahoma. We provide investors a new look of how to make this happen, and literally working with you to make sure that you have that good local support. We know our local markets. We know what's going on out there. Each of our franchises that we have out there is owned and operated by seasoned investors that we call Impact Master Trainers. In short, we call them IMTs. So we do monthly meetings at all of our locations. In addition to that, we also offer one-on-one mentoring, and we have several programs that can help you no matter where you're at in your real estate business. If you're interested in learning more about our training options, please reach out to one of our IMT Master Trainers. We have several on here tonight, each week that we do this. You can also reach out and find our locations and contact information on our website, which is realimpacttraining.com. Just click on the locations tab in the middle of the screen, and it will take you to where we're meeting. It will have a calendar on there of what our meetings are coming up and how we do this. So one of our objectives each Sunday night is to provide you with an opportunity to ask questions about real estate investing. So with this, we are on YouTube, and if there's not a chat area in the YouTube that you're on, you need to hit subscribe. And all you do is hit subscribe, and then a chat box will show up. Please ask your questions on there so we can help you and help us with this call. So tonight's call, we're excited about it. We're going to be talking about subject to investing. And what we have with subject to investing is we've got a couple of all-day training events coming up. The first one is going to be over in Hurst, which is in the Fort Worth, Texas area. It's going to be next Saturday. We start at 8:30 in the morning and we quit at 5 o'clock. Lunch is included. It's an all-day training. Now we're going to repeat that all-day training, same event that we're going to be doing the next Saturday, which is the 17th. The first one's on December the 10th. The next one's going to be on December the 17th. And that's going to be in the Dallas area, in the North Dallas area, actually in the Addison area. And we have that available to you. So if you're interested in that, we have a link at realimpactevents.com, realimpactevents.com. And we would love you to be there. We've been very successful with it. We have a video at the end of this, a little short 1-minute video of one of our students, one of our class participants, should I say, and his success with what he's done with subject to investing, or what he did literally in the first 12 months that he got into the subject to investing. And he has just been doing phenomenal since then. So right now I'd like to bring on our Impact Master Trainers to help us with tonight's call. So we have Karen Maxwell, Impact Plano. We have Doug and Renee Toon, Impact Longview. We have Eric Short, Impact Grand Prairie, South Dallas. We have Gabi Lockhart, which is Impact Wichita Falls and Denton. And I guess that's what we have on here tonight. So thank you for all being on here. Welcome to be here. And I'm excited tonight because, as you know, I'm kind of the subject to guy, and I love every aspect about subject to. So let's get this thing rolling. So anybody got anything to say before we start on our program tonight?
Let's go.
I know one thing. I'm sure glad that we are finally here. I've been working so hard on these 2 events that we have coming up. I'm glad that we're finally getting to the culmination of it all and get to see it all come to fruition. It's been about a year since it's been a little over a year since you've presented about subject to here in Texas. So
in Texas, I did Oklahoma this summer, and we had a full house there.
Yep.
We expect to have a full house in both Dallas and Fort Worth over the next 2 weeks. We sell out every time we do this. So don't procrastinate. And, if you show up at the door and you haven't got tickets, you may not be able to get in. Even if you do, you may not get lunch. You're going to be starving to death because we're limited on the number of meals by the number of participants that we have signed up.
Exactly. Yes. We have to give our, where we're getting our food from, we have to give them a final head count ahead of time, and they give us a certain cutoff date. So I also want to say, if you're planning to come to this event, one of these events, and you have one that you want to go to, let's say you want to go to the one on the 10th. If you don't act now, then you may not get to go on the 10th, because if they cut the tickets off, then you don't get to go. And then you'll have to go to the one on the 17th. Right. Or if you want to go to the one on the 17th in Addison and you don't act now, then we sell out. Then you have to go to the one in Hurst if it's available. So don't procrastinate. Make sure you get your tickets purchased early.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about this. What excites me most about the subject to events that we do is watching the success of the people in the room and what they have done with that. And we're going to follow that up with a series of Zoom calls, live action Zoom calls, where if you come to the class, we're going to be following that up where you can ask questions on an ongoing basis on these Zoom calls that we'll be holding for the next several weeks after the events.
That's a great benefit.
So I am so excited that everybody's on here tonight, and we all have areas of expertise that we bring to this call. And Karen, you're going to be working the questions. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And so that's great. We're excited to have you here. And with that, let's kick off the slideshow. So like I said earlier, we're talking about subject to purchases. Subject to deals, they can absolutely be astonishing. This is a program that I got involved in a little over 15 years ago. I didn't understand it. I came from being a realtor that worked with investors. I started hearing about this, and it took a while to wrap my mind around it. It took a while to understand that there's a separation between the deed and the mortgage of the property. So let's skip to the next slide here. And I just want to say this real quick. The subject to transaction, the mortgage stays in the seller's name, but you as the buyer, you own and control the property. So your name is on the deed, the mortgage stays in the seller's name, and you're making those payments for the seller. Okay, they're in a bad situation usually. So that's what we do on that. So in today's market, you're taking on the loan with a very low interest rate, which is absolutely phenomenal and exciting. So you're taking that on with a very low interest rate, and you're helping others where nobody else can really help them. You're helping them not to go to foreclosure. You're helping them to make that happen. So, and then I always have to say this because I always get the question, for a subject to work, there has to be a mortgage in place. So if the mortgage is not in place, then you're going to do creative financing. You're going to do owner financing.
Seller finance.
Yeah, absolutely. Seller finance. Absolutely, Doug. So you're gonna be looking at that and making that happen. And like I said, this is helping people out where nobody else can, because there's very little expense to closing these deals. And you're not necessarily looking for the equity. What you're looking for is the cash flow. What can I do to create cash flow with this property and make this happen? So good deal. We'll hit to the next slide real quick. And Doug?
Is that me or Karen?
Oh yeah,
On the signs?
So bandit signs work if you're consistent and if you keep them short and simple, straight and to the point. Keep it simple. You don't want to write a whole book that they have to read and then they're already past your sign. And then my tip is, the only thing that's different than this sign is I like to put my phone number at the top, in case if the grass gets tall in front of the sign, they can still see the phone number. But you do need to check with your local municipalities, because we did put signs out in one city one day, and within 20 minutes, the city was calling it, and they were pulling up all of our signs, and we never put signs out again there because they knew who we were. But we worked with them. We said, where can we put them? Put them in any property that we own. So all of our rentals got a sign in the yard, and we just explained, hey, this is how we can afford to buy properties that we can put tenants like you in. So we're just going to put this sign up here. And if you'll just take it down when you mow and put it back in, we would appreciate it. And they were always very accommodating. But we did have to be like 3 feet from the road. But a lot of places you can put them out like on the weekends, but just make sure that you go back and pick them up on Sunday night. Put them out on Friday evening, pick them up on Sunday evening. Now, they're not free. They do cost money. But just talk to the local municipalities and find out where you can and can't put out signs so that you don't upset anybody.
Very good point.
Absolutely. So, and they work, they work. There's lots of other ways to market for the properties. And that's a huge amount of what we're going to be talking about over the next 2 Saturdays, an all-day event, is putting together a marketing plan for you. And bandit signs are great, but Karen, you said something a while ago about the bandit signs of where to place the phone number.
Uh-huh.
And that is a phenomenal. You got to put it on the top. I remember seeing a sign years ago, and it says, please don't litter. And it showed the grass growing up, and it said, please don't. And then it just said, please. And I've always thought about that when I see these bandit signs out there, because, people, the number one thing you need to get out there is a way for people to contact you.
Oh, I guess I do have one more point. Back in the early days, we used to hand write our bandit signs. And when we would have a lot of empty properties in a certain area, we would write our own on Friday. We'd have a teenager put them out, pick them up. But I sent someone to the store to get some markers, some big fat Sharpies, so that you're not having to write so much. You can just lay it on its side and write bigger. And she couldn't find any Sharpies, so she bought an off-brand. And the calls kind of stopped coming in, and I went over to one of the properties, and literally there was nothing on the sign except for call now or for rent or for sale or whatever it said. But where we had written the phone number with that other marker, it was completely gone. I don't know if it was the rain or the sun, I can't remember, but make sure that you check your signs and your empty properties occasionally to make sure that people can still get a hold of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see people doing really bad advertising all the time. So, and if you're going to put a number on there, make sure you have a way to capture the incoming information. So you want to use a call capture number that can be on Google Numbers, or that can be Ring Central or Grasshopper or any of those other forms out there, because you're spending a lot of time marketing and you just want to make sure you are able to capture their number and you have a record of that so you can call them back. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good deal. Good deal. Anybody else got any stories on bandit signs?
They work.
All right. So let's go to the next slide.
Yep.
And this is Doug.
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter how you market. We like to door knock, and a lot of people say, well, that's crazy. Who's going to get out of their car and go up to the door, knock on the door? That's going to be me. And when we make our offers, we're making offers to these people based on their situation. And I never know what the situation is going to be when I knock on a door. So I have to have the subject to in my pocket. And you need to be trained on this, because if you get a motivated seller, and we're not looking for distressed properties necessarily, we're looking for distressed owners. And you meet them at the property. Well, I normally am at the property when I meet them for the first time. And I also bring contracts. Now, I don't bring them with me to the door, but I will go back out to the car and get them. And then house. I mean, immediately go through the house and talk to them about, what their situation is. Get to know them. Let them get to know you. Let them talk more. Get the property on contract, and then you go and perform your due diligence. You find out, does this property really belong to this person? Number one, because you can't believe how many times I've talked to the people. Oh yeah, we want to sell. They don't even own the property. And so when you do that, you come back to the numbers and say, does this deal work? Well, if it doesn't work, you've got to go back to the seller and talk to them about maybe coming to the table with some extra money. And that can happen with a sub too, is taking over their payments. They may be in a position where they've got to get rid of this house, and they will come to the table with extra money at closing. And then if the deal does work, you get your contracts to the title company, you close on the property. I do one extra little thing out there, is I go ahead and get it in a options contract, because from an option contract, I can go anywhere. I just want to make sure that they've signed something before I leave that house. So that's my take on it. Everybody hear that okay?
Yes, sir. We got it.
All right. All right.
Okay, good.
Well, good deal. Thank you, Doug. So this is kind of the process to do that with. And as Doug says, we go into that in detail in our full day class. And we look forward to anybody that wants to be there. It's going to change your life if you let it change your life. This is a great process to, once again, help lots of people out of a property they can't normally sell any other way, or they don't want to sell any other way. All right. Any other comments on this?
Nope.
All right. Let's jump to the next slide.
Nope.
Now, this was one that I did years ago, and it was a tired landlord. He had 4 properties. He just didn't want to deal with it anymore. He was just willing to, just start making my payments. He did not have bad renters in there. They were all current. The properties were in phenomenal condition. And so the basic information, it tells you right there, the equity in each of the properties he came to the table with, monthly cash flow in there. We closed in 2 weeks, and all he wanted was just to be gone with those properties. He was willing to walk away from that equity in those properties. And he's still a great friend today. He's actually has a service that I use, and he is just a phenomenal guy. It just wasn't right for him to own real estate investment property. So this is the reason we have this up here is landlords or tired landlords, or what I call accidental landlords, which are people that wind up with a house that they don't really want. Maybe they've gotten married and each of the spouses had a house, and one they tried to do the rental thing with, and they just become a disaster, or they move a family member in that just becomes a terrible experience for them. And in this case, this guy just wanted it done. He just couldn't sleep at night because he had rental properties, even though they were cash flowing and performing, and he had no problems with them. He had a great handyman that would take care of anything that went wrong. He had property managers on all 4 properties, so that wasn't an issue at all. And we were able to close that deal in 2 weeks. Good deal. So, anybody want to throw anything out there on this?
Well,
I think go ahead, Eric.
sure. Roger, that sounds an awful lot like the one that you helped me with. There was a gentleman who just didn't want to, he had a rental property, but his new bride did not want to be married to a landlord. So he had to get rid of the property, and Roger knew him, but this property was not within the farm area that Roger wanted to usually deal with, and he knew that this was in mind. And he said, "Hey, Eric, I've got this property here in Aledo, and it fits your criteria. It's got a tenant in it. The owner doesn't want to be a landlord, or at least he wants to stay married to this woman who doesn't want to be married to a landlord." And so Roger helped me with this subject too, and it worked out great for me because very little down. There was hardly any equity in it, but like Roger said earlier, it's not about the equity necessarily. It's all about the cash flow. And I held on to this property for several years, and went through a couple of tenants. And what was really interesting about one of the tenants was she called. She had started getting late on rent, and she said, "Eric, I'm going to sell my truck, and then I'll get you the rent." And I said, "What kind of truck is it?" And I'm driving that truck today. So it's a very creative way to get property and to establish a land, a cash flow situation. And so Roger helped me with that, and he can help you.
There you go.
That's
There
right.
you go. Now, Doug and Renee, didn't y'all get one that was kind of was that through the Apple technique, or how did y'all pick that up? That y'all did a rehab and sold it in a few months?
Yeah, no, that was it was just a word of mouth. You go to church and you tell everybody that you're a real estate investor, and of course, in their mind, they don't hear real estate investor; they hear realtor or real estate agent. And so when somebody has a house to sell, it's, "Oh, you need to talk to Doug and Renee." Of course, we're not agents, but we do want to talk to them about their house. That's right. But these folks had gotten into this house with his mother's credit, and if they'd have worked on their credit, they'd have never qualified. But since his mother was there, they qualified. They got into it, but she had to move back to New Mexico for health reasons and left them with this payment. And it was so actually stressful that the wife would sit in the car out in the driveway and cry because she didn't want to go into this house that she hated.
And she hated it because they didn't have any spare money to fix it up like she wanted to. There were all kinds of dreams and desires she had that wasn't going to happen. And so she was disillusioned with that house. But the truth of the matter is we looked at it a year before and the numbers did not work.
Yeah.
There was very little equity in it back that first year, but even the second year, it had a little bit more equity, but only a year's worth. But the numbers worked because values of homes went up dramatically, and so we could do the deal.
Right.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
when it doesn't matter what the issue is, people have, I talked to one lady here recently, had a mobile home, and she had to move. The company she's at moved her to another location. Well, she had just bought it, and there was no equity in it, but I was willing to take over the payment so I'd have a rent house. And things are things, and that deal fell through. I think her parents took over the note. So,
they did.
Yeah.
Wow. So
word of mouth.
Yeah. What's that? All right. Good deal. So yeah,
he said word of mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So that is, that's how I get most of mine, is word of mouth, and talking to other people that are in a bad position. Now, one thing we want to make clear on this is we don't really recommend you go out and pull up the foreclosure list of properties going to foreclosure next Tuesday, because they're already so far behind, and unless you have a lot of cash to make that up, it's going to be very hard to do that. I had a call this week, a gentleman, and he had an opportunity on a subject too, and as he researched it out, he called me back, and I've got a story of one that she was 10 years behind on payment, and he bypassed me, and this one was 11 years, had not made a payment for 11 years on my house. And you're not just there's no way to salvage that. That is not even one to look at on a subject to. No. I really don't recommend that you got to be very picky if they're more than 90 days behind on their note payment, because you're gonna have to bring that up. You're gonna have to, everybody's gonna have to deal with the mortgage company to make sure that is paid correctly. All the arrears are done and all that. So you want to be very cautious with that. So be careful on how you're marketing for subject twos. Once again, if you're pulling the foreclosure list and they haven't made a payment in a couple of years and you don't have the cash to catch them up, then you want to be careful. So even if you do have the cash to catch them up, sometimes you're running through some hoops because the bank may come back and say, "Oh, thank you so much for making these payments up and getting it somewhat current, but we're done. We don't want to work this loan anymore. So you either need to refinance this, you need to sell it, or we're gonna wind up letting it foreclose on eventually, because we're just done working with these people because they never can hold to their stories that they've told us over the last multiple years or whatever." So be cautious about that. So let's jump to the next slide. Oh, okay. Let's jump back real quick. Jump back, CJ. We're going to get that in a minute. Gabi, I want you to talk a little bit about Gabi is in the mortgage industry. She's also her and her husband Tim own IMPACT Wichita Falls and IMPACT Denton, Texas. And Gabi, you come from the mortgage industry. You have y'all have a couple of or multiple ways of loaning money. You have an investor's product. You have a retail product. You work with a lot of our clients personally, Lynn Jean and I, on making things happen. So let's talk about buyers right quick. Tell us about your thoughts on doing some wraps and working with some buyers on that.
Well, with the buyers, I have a lot of basically clients in my pipeline, and they all come and say, "Can I do an owner finance?" And I said, "Well, let's find an owner finance, because the owner financing program is actually really a good option if the client is teachable." I think teachable is one of the most important words that I would like to use, and accountability. Are you willing to go through the whole steps in what we need to do for that you can really qualify for a loan? I can see a lot of things on the credit report. When I pull the credit report, I see habits. I see good habits. I see bad habits. Sometimes I can tell them the story and they go like, "How in the world do you know that?" And I'm like, "Well, I can see it on your credit report." And I can basically almost predict if somebody is good or not so good on fixing up their credit, getting their feedback on the ground or not. And I have an amazing credit repair system with one of my companies that I'm using, and they can pretty much get things off your credit. They were even able to get a mortgage off a credit report. That's another story that I can share later. But they're really amazing. And so the main thing is, if you're doing a rent to own or wrap or whatever you want to do as an exit strategy, make sure those people are really say who they are. Get a knowledge on them. Just really look at every details. Look at their bank statements. Look at the credit report. And sometimes I just see really bad habits. And if I see the bad habits, I'm going like, are you able to adjust those situations, or are you just going to keep having those habits? And that's really important to know as an exit strategy.
Very good. Very
Now,
good.
Bobby,
So,
one of the things you and I talked about the other day was the importance of them not paying cash.
Oh yeah, you
So
cannot
they have that documentation.
You need documentation from A to C, basically from the beginning till the end of the closing. If you want to get them closed and you don't want to have a disaster at the closing table, because cash is basically not existing. If you cannot paper trail your money, where the money came from. I had a client, he said, well, I sold my four-wheeler. I'm going like, was it your four-wheeler or was it your brother's or was it the one that was sitting in front of the street? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, do you have documentation at least that you own the four-wheeler? He said, no. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to take that money because I do not know where the money came from. And we could not use that four-wheeler's money, even it was his. But he could not document it, and he could not document it to who it sold the property. So we had to find different ways of money on making that happen. So yes, everything has to be in a paper trail. Everything has to be cashier's check. If you want to take a personal check, it's your own risk. Make sure the money's in the bank account ahead of time.
Awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let me throw this out here real quick. We have a chat box. If you have any questions whatsoever on subject twos, please throw it in the chat box. We'll be sure to get that answer to you real quick. So
And if
make
you're
that
just
happen.
joining us, if you can't see the chat box, it should say live chat. It's right down here in the middle, right below our screen there. And it should say live chat. If it doesn't, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel so that you can open the live chat. And feel free to drop any of your questions into the live chat. Roger, I have a couple of different ways that we found properties that people wanted to sell, that agreed to sell subject to. One was just a tired landlord, like you mentioned earlier. They were just tired. They were an older couple that were just tired of it. They just lived right around the corner from the property, but they didn't want to mess with it anymore. So I think we gave them like $1,000 down, which we didn't do a whole lot, but we don't make it a habit of giving people money for their equity, but it already had a tenant in it. It was already cash flowing. So we bought that one. And then there was another one that we were on our way to pick up my kids from school. And this guy was walking into his house or walking out of his house with like a 6-pack of beer. And he looked at our car and he waved us down and we were like, what? And he was like, y'all buy houses? And we were like, well, yeah. And he said, come buy mine. And we were a little bit confused, but we had a magnet on the side of our car that had, I buy houses. And our phone number, but he waved us, flagged us down. Like, what are the chances you're frustrated with the property? You walk outside and there's a car driving by that says that they buy houses. So we went back and talked to him after we got the kids. And his story was that it was a property that he bought when he was in college. And he rented out the other bedroom to cover his mortgage payment, which is super smart. And by this, he graduated from college and then he moved on, got married and had a child, but he still kept that rental property. And so every summer he had to go back to the property and get it ready for next year's, the next semester's tenants. And his wife had just had a baby and she said, we can't keep doing this. You can't keep going and spending 2 weeks at the college every summer. Like, we got to sell the property. So we bought that property subject to and put some tenants in there. And oddly enough, they were never college students. So, because we didn't provide fully furnished units at that time. Another one, the woman had not lived in the home for 7 years. Her mother had gotten ill and had moved to town and had her own place right down the road, but she fell. And so the daughter moved in with her mother to take care of her, and she just never went home. So something would break on the house. So the neighbor called and said, there's water running out of your house. So she shut the water off. Then she went by one time to check on it, and she could smell gas. So she shut the gas off. And so she was continuing to pay this house payment, $750 a month, I think, something like that, for this big house. And she hadn't lived in it for 7 years. When we bought it, there were so many, the squirrels had basically lived there. The squirrels had taken pecans and stored them up everywhere. For all the furniture, all the like the cabinets and stuff, all the dressers, everything was full of pecans. And they just basically took over. And one day she said, you know what, you should buy my house. And we did. And we ended up living in that house. It was a girl I worked with. We lived in that house, renovated it, and then rented it out after a couple of years after we moved on to another property. So worked out really well. You never know what someone's motivation is, but you have to just talk to them and listen. And like Doug said earlier, word of mouth, make sure people know that that's what you do. Roger, you said something yesterday. You said, would you sell your property for the amount for what you owe on it? Would you sell your property for what you owe on it? That is such an easy question. I wrote that down. I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be my tagline. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And it works. It works. There's, and we go over that in our Saturday class. We go over multiple different areas that you can approach people and talk to them about that. So, Eric was talking about that property he picked up in Aledo, and the people that owned it are just absolutely phenomenal people. We just love them to death, but they just did not want to own a rent house. It was a house they lived in.
Yeah.
They owned that house for years, but they just are not the personalities to want to deal with a tenant and any of the baggage that comes along with that. And it's not anything bad. It's just it's just
cut out for it. Some people are not cut out for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was just, he was, before he found us and before he found me or reached out to me and we reached out to Eric, he was just a nervous wreck because it's just not something he wanted to do. And we all work off emotion. We all work emotionally about whatever's in place for, in place for our life, and some things, some people might get stressed out over minor things, and other people don't get stressed out over anything. But
sure,
we want to help people out. We don't want them stressed out. It's just bad to be stressed out.
Hey, Roger.
Yes.
You mentioned word of mouth. That's been mentioned a couple of times. A friend of mine from my Rotary Club, excuse me, I've got a little thing going on, mentioned that she wanted to sell her house. She was living in a situation. Can I jump in here? She was living in a situation.
You already have.
Where she was living with her 2 adult daughters and their children, so her grandchildren. And she was in a big house with a lot of people that she was ready to be by herself. She wanted to buy a mobile home on a property near her mom's mobile home. And we're talking 4 generations. Do the math. And she said, well, I went to Open Door and I went to this other and I went to this other, and all I need is this amount of money to move out of my house. And I said, well, if I was able to give you that amount of money, would you take it from me instead of, a big company? She said, yes. So we worked it out. I got her the amount of money. She said it was either that or burn the house down. I said, let's talk about option A. So So they lived there for 4 years. And what was really interesting about this place, after the first year of her and her 2 daughters and her 5 grandchildren and dogs and cats, the carpet had given up the ghost. And so they pulled all the carpets out of everything. And they thought, the cool thing now is to paint the cement floor. So let's paint the cement floor red. Oh my gosh. Anyway, long story short, it was a great thing for her. It was a great thing for me. It works out, subject to, you need to come to one of these Saturday seminars and check it out for yourself. It's great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. Matthew is asking, has anybody helped the people move who sold subject to?
Well, I'll be glad to answer that. I will work with them, but I'm not going to help them move. I'm not in the moving business. Everybody I've ever done a subject to with already have some type of arrangements. The very first one I did, the lady was very ill. She was elderly, had osteoporosis terribly. She could hardly walk. She couldn't hold her head up. And, so all she needed was $1,000 to help pay for the movers to move her chair and her bed and her clothes. Everything else she didn't need. She's moving into an assisted living or a retirement village. And I did that. So I don't normally give a lot of cash because there's not a lot of equity in these houses, like what Eric was saying on the house that he picked up. I think that guy just refinanced like 2 weeks before Eric got it. So there was hardly any equity in that house, but it had great cash flow.
Like zero equity.
Yeah, zero equity in that house. But the property's increased in price. But to go and just literally help people, I've got a saying that I'm going to be out of town when you move. I don't know when that is, but I'll be sure to be out of town that day.
Yeah, I've got a truck, but I'll be out of town that day.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah. And you said you had a couple of questions?
Yeah,
Sharon?
one more we have from Catherine Rivera. When approaching tired landlords before or after eviction court, not in the courtroom, what is a good lead-in line to start a conversation?
Renee, I think you have a business card with that, don't you?
Are you tired of tenants and toilets? I can help.
What a great tagline. And you actually have that on a business card, right?
I do. I absolutely do.
Well, how cool is that?
I can get it to you and show it to you if you want.
There you go.
She just hands it to him and walks away.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So
really, the card says it all. I don't have to say anything. I just hand him my card.
That's right. That's right. So Catherine, that is a great way to talk to somebody. And Catherine, you're right. You can't talk to them in the courtroom because bad things happen. Judges don't really like that. They're not there to listen to you have a sales pitch. But you can identify who's in that courtroom on who is a landlord, who's a property manager, and who's the tenant. You don't really want to talk to the tenant. Property manager, you're probably not going to get very far with, but the tired landlord, you're gonna do well with. And most areas, depending on the size of your town, will have 1 or 2 eviction courts held every week at the sub courthouse or at the main courthouse. And you just go in there, you register, you tell them that you are a landlord, you don't have anything working right now, but you want to observe how this works. And then you meet people out in either the lobby or the parking lot. You hand them what Renee has on a card. You tired of tenants and toilets, and your phone number, and go from there.
I'll tell you what, going to eviction court is like better than a movie. I mean, I wish you could take popcorn in there because sometimes it gets great. I went to eviction court one time and was waiting on my turn, and the people in front that went ahead of me had actually just applied for one of our houses. So I was like, note to self, do not rent to this person. But I don't start my conversations with this, Catherine. But what I do say is I say, oh, I love buying oh my gosh, I just forgot the word. What did I say? I just completely forgot it. But basically, I buy problems. Oh, problem. I love buying problem properties because I know how to deal with people and I know how to go through the eviction processes and everything. And a lot of people will think that they can't sell you their house if they have a tenant in it. So if I'm talking to someone that, whether they have a loan that I'm possibly going to be able to take over subject to or not, I make sure I let them know, please don't, we buy problem properties all the time. So I know you already have this one that you've taken care of, but if you ever have one that you're tired of dealing with, I tell you, there have been some properties sometimes that I would have sold in a heartbeat if people came around at the right time, because some of them are just that problem property. So I always make sure that I tell them, don't evict anybody. Talk to me first. Let's discuss it because, we might be able to work it out or I might be able to handle it for you. I've done a couple of evictions for other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is great. So let's go into the segue there. Let's talk about what we're going to be doing on Saturday, the next 2 Saturdays. We want to make sure you're clear. Uh-oh.
We're still here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine kind of bleeped out for a second. The next 2 Saturdays. So Hearst, Texas, which is just right west of DFW Airport. And that's going to be this coming Saturday on the 10th. Once again, it's an all-day event. We open the doors at 8:30. We're out of there at 5 o'clock, and you're going to get a ton of information here. So we work. It's an all-day long live presentation, live instruction. We're going to have various people in there that you can use in your business. We're looking at talking to we're working to have servicing companies there and people that can write loans for you, RMLOs, and we have a very easy to follow workbook. Hey, CJ, if you can put me on full screen real quick, I'm just going to show what they're going to get. And there we go. So an easy to work workbook. There we go. So this is an 80-page workbook on how to do subject to, and we literally go page by page and go through this workbook. And you have in here, you're going to make lots of notes. You're going to make lots of areas in here. So make sure you understand how this notebook works, and we're not going to leave anything out. And then we have a thumb drive here. So it's a thumb drive that we have over 50 documents in this for you to use in your subject to. They can be there's contracts in here, addendums, samples of power of attorneys, samples of other things that you're going to need all day long on this. And then, of course, you're going to be getting my book on subject to. And we literally go through what we're training is what the book is and explaining to you how this works and giving you some sample deals, how we put those together and made that work. So CJ, throw back up what we're doing this Saturday. And so it is, like I said, Saturday the 10th, Saturday the 17th. It's the same class. You're not taking both classes. If you want to take both classes, you're going to get to pay for both classes because we sell out. So right now we have a early bird special, $349, and you bring a friend for $149. You can go to realimpactevents.com. The QR code's a little small there. I don't know if you can get anything off of that or not, but realimpactevents.com. You can register on that. And once you do, if you're affiliated with any of our locations and you're in the Longview area or you're in the South Dallas, Grand Prairie area, whatever, a box is going to come up and it's going to ask what location you're affiliated with. And if you're in Wichita Falls or Denton or Plano or whatever, you're going to click that affiliation. If you're not affiliated, there's on the bottom down there says I'm not affiliated with any location, but we want if you're in that area and if you're coming out of Longview, Texas, we want to have that captured so Doug and Renee can make sure that they meet you there and you start building that relationship with our IMT, our franchise business owner that is in your area. And so make sure you hit that affiliation on there. We had a ton of signups today. Karen and I were busy all day making sure that everything's in the spreadsheet, and we were able to put all that together. We expected all the way through this week of having that done. If you want to learn how to make this happen, there are so many people out there that are looking for you to help them out with their property. Okay, they can't, in most cases, they're not going to go to a realtor because a realtor is going to look at them and say, oh, you don't have the equity to sell your property, so I'm not going to list your property. Or maybe they're in a bind and they don't have time to wait, for that realtor to list it and then start lowering the price to the point they have to bring money to the table to sell and pay for all their closing costs. And with the subject to, the closing costs are very little, and most of the time, those of us that are investors, we pay for that closing. So they're just walking away, and they're selling their property for what they owe is what they're doing. And this is a great way to build your business. It helps you in so many aspects of it. But we would love to see you there. And we're excited that we're having this over the next 2 Saturdays. If you have any questions whatsoever, click on realimpactevents.com. You can ask us a question on that. Get registered. Once again, we'd love to see you there. We're gonna serve food. You're gonna have lunch there, but the night before, Friday night, if you register, you're gonna get an invite, and we're gonna go eat both Friday nights before the event. So December the 9th and December the 16th, we're gonna be eating close to where those locations are. We also have on that Real Impact Events page, we have multiple hotels in the area that you can, if you're out of town, not in the area, you can easily find a hotel room, literally in most cases within walking distance of where our event's going to be. It may not be walking distance, but it's pretty darn close. And then we're going to follow. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Karen.
The networking.
Absolutely.
Roger and I didn't leave yesterday. We were there like an hour after the meeting ended, and there were still people out. There were 2 groups. I don't know if you saw the other group around the front.
Yes, I did.
There were 2 groups that were still outside talking. That means they can talk longer than Roger and I.
There you go. That's a lot.
They were still there talking, and I said, "Oh,
That
look."
is a lot.
I said, did y'all know each other before y'all got here? And she said, no, we just met today. I said, see, now y'all are besties. There you go.
That's
Buy
right.
one, get one for $149. Y'all can come together.
That's right. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but when you're there networking with the people that are going to be learning or maybe already have the knowledge of Sub 2, it's an exciting thing. I know one of the guys that can't come he won't be in town for the next 2 weekends to be able to come to the event, went home and read your book last night or yesterday afternoon. And he was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is going to be my niche. So he is super excited. When you get it, you get it. And I know it's something kind of hard to grasp sometime, but I hope that Roger's able to get that, make it simple for everyone to understand at one of the Saturday events. And we hope we see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to follow these events up. We're going to have a series of Zoom calls, interactive, where you're on the Zoom call, only to the people that come to the class. It's not going to be available for anybody and everybody out there. It's only the people that come to these classes. We can answer your questions. You can ask questions. You can say, what are you doing about this? I had this situation happen. I don't understand. I've got the bank and the bank's not cooperative. How do I handle this? So we're going to follow that up with a series of Zoom calls, bi-weekly Zoom calls throughout December and January and possibly February. As long as y'all need the Zoom calls, we'll be there. So we're excited about it. We want you to be involved in this. This has been a game changer for so many people that we know, and for us, for all of us on this call.
Absolutely.
It has been a game changer for us. So we look forward to seeing you on there, and go get properties, help people out of their situation, because what are we? What is it Dennis always says? We are problem solvers. Absolutely. So that's what we do, is we get good at that and we solve problems, and people are happy with us. I can tell you this, that literally everybody that I've done a subject to with, I've done subject twos where people have passed away, but people that are alive, they're on my Facebook page, or they have my email, they have my phone number, because they're a great source of referrals, because they're like, you know, that deal you did with me, I've got a neighbor, I've got a friend, I've got a coworker, they're in a bind. Can you help them out? And I've helped out so many people through referrals because they were just in a bind, and they don't want it. They don't want their house to go into foreclosure. Foreclosures are bad. They're bad for your life. They're bad for the neighborhood. They're bad for all the neighbors. You don't want a house to go into foreclosure. So we keep that from happening. So there you go. Other than that, thank you everybody for being on this call tonight. We're going to wrap it up. And I am excited that Saturday, the next 2 Saturdays, we're out there. Remember, realimpactevents.com. Click on there, register, get you a friend, bring your spouse, work this thing together as a couple. It is a phenomenal way to do that. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. So good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
And
Good
we will see you Saturday. Thanks. Bye.
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 So Tommy, why don't you go on?
All right. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? All right. So I knew nothing about real estate in November of 2017. And I took a class, learned a little bit of the basics. Didn't know how to acquire a property. Like most of y'all, I thought, gosh, I have a little bit of money, but this is kind of tough. Where do I even begin, right? So I discovered Roger in 2018 and took his subject to class. I think it was in Fort Worth. And it was pretty cool, right? I mean, everything you're learning, you guys are just at the beginning of the class today. But halfway through the day, I started realizing, wow, there's really, really something to this. So I went out and I aggressively found the attorney, found the CPA, did my marketing. And that's actually when Facebook was actually working for marketing. And so my first year, starting summer of 2018 until summer of 2019, we acquired 26 properties with subject to in 1 year.
Running your own real estate investment business can be stressful, time-consuming, and difficult to manage. Where do you start? Why go out and try and reinvent the wheel when we have the answer? With our exclusive training program, we will teach you how to free up your time to build your business, develop your goals, learning where to find the money, how to find better deals, keeping track of offers, building a team, and developing a business plan that works for you. We at Real Impact Real Estate Training and Mentoring have all the answers for you. We have several plans to help you get your business to the next level. We have developed the best one-on-one personal training system in the industry. We have a proven structure that has been developed for more than 50 years through the purchase and sales of thousands of homes and commercial properties. We will help you set up and build your real estate investment business. Whether you are new to investing or you are a seasoned professional, we have a plan for you to customize your business to a method that works, is affordable, and fits your budget. With training modules like finding money, finding deals, learning how to get correct comps, building a team, short sales, subject twos, foreclosures, making multiple offers, understanding auctions, REOs, and tax sales, working to build your construction team, and finding sellers and buyers. Find your property management team, plus over 70 additional training modules to choose from. Sit down with us for a one-on-one consulting to see what training plan is best to develop your goals and to build your business by using the 5 M's of investing: mining, money, maintenance, marketing, and management. Wouldn't your life be great if you can live it on your own terms? We help you develop and structure your business to take massive action. Join the Real Impact Real Estate Training today. Change your life today with real estate investing.